In 1979, a high school history teacher named Glen Hatch raised 8 children in a 3-bedroom house in Logan, Utah on $14,000 a year. He never carried a credit card balance or missed a mortgage payment. He paid the house off in 19 years and retired owning it outright. A year of wheat in the basement, $1,000 in a coffee can, nothing owed to anyone. His neighbors assumed the church had given him money. It had not. What he had was a set of rules learned in the Depression, drilled into him before he could drive. Most of America has never heard of one of them. They did not manage money the way we do, not with apps or credit scores, not with the hope that next month would be easier. They managed it with habits, handed down, deliberate, enforced without argument, practiced so long nobody thought of them as unusual. Those habits carried families through layoffs and lean winters. We let go of nearly all of them, not because they stopped working, but because they made us feel poor, and we would rather feel rich and owe everyone. Number 22 saved these families more money than most people spend on their cars, and it had nothing to do with budgeting. Number 9 cost almost nothing, was handed to millions, yet outperforms most of what is sold as financial advice today. And number 1, the rule they guarded above every other, is the same principle a financial planner now charges $200 an hour to teach, except these families learned it as children, for free. These 25 tricks were never about being cheap. They were about being free. Free from the bank, free from the next emergency, free from the fear that one bad month could take everything. Hit that subscribe button. Let us count down the 25 secret money tricks Mormon families have used for generations to stay debt-free for life. Number 25, the year's supply. The basement that was also a bank. Down the stairs, past the furnace, the shelves held wheat, oats, beans, sugar, and home-canned fruit. A year of meals without a single trip to the store. You bought it a case at a time when prices were low. 50 pounds of wheat cost a few dollars and could be stored for 30 years. When the father was laid off in 1974, they ate from the basement and kept the mortgage current. It was a year of breathing room you could walk down and touch. Church leaders had counseled a home store of food since the Depression. It was not fear in the basement. It was freedom, stacked in jars. Number 24, the cannery. The cannery is the warehouse where a year of food cost pennies a pound. The church ran storehouses and canneries where families dry-packed their own staples in bulk. You took a Saturday shift, ran the canning machine alongside your neighbors, and walked out with cases of wheat, rice, and dried milk at a fraction of store prices. Nobody was paid. Everybody left with food that would outlast the decade. This grew straight out of the welfare program built in the 1930s, when storehouses fed families the banks could not. The cannery was that idea, handed down. Bulk, not retail. Together, not alone. Number 23, the garden and the bottling shelf. The summer that paid for winter. Out back grew tomatoes, beans, corn, and a row of fruit trees. Through August, the mother and daughters bottled it all in glass, 200 quarts by October, shelved for the cold months. A jar of peaches in January was free. The neighbors bought theirs at the store for 50 cents apiece. The church called it Provident Living, and the gardens of Utah and southern Idaho fed whole towns. She did not buy the winter. She bottled it in July. Number 22, the word of wisdom, the money saved by what was never bought. No alcohol, no cigarettes, no coffee, no tea. It was a health code, not a budget, but the budget felt it every week. A pack-a-day habit and a case of beer cost a working man real money in 1965. This family spent none of it. Multiply a few dollars a week across 40 years, and it bought a car, then another. They never called it saving, they called it living. The word of wisdom dates to a revelation recorded in 1833. The savings were an accident of obedience. They were not going without. They were keeping what others burned. Number 21, the Sabbath. 52 days a year, the wallet stayed shut. On Sunday, the family did not shop, eat out, fill the tank, or run to the store for one forgotten thing. Whatever was needed had been bought on Saturday. The day cost nothing, and the $10 of impulse spending it prevented 52 times a year came to $500 a year that simply stayed. Keeping the Sabbath was a commandment across the whole community. The empty cash register was a side effect nobody planned. One day a week, the money rested too.
Before we go on, I made something special for you. Guides for people like us who still believe the old ways mattered. They're the forgotten money habits our grandparents lived by, tricks that could save you thousands a year. But this knowledge is disappearing. And once it's gone for good. I've put together 2 books for you, plus a free bonus. Scan the QR code on screen now, or click the link below. I'll wait right here.
Number 20, Deseret Industries, the thrift store that was also a paycheck. The church ran its own thrift stores, selling clothing, furniture, tools, and appliances that were donated and resold for a few dollars. Families shopped there first and bought new only when they had to. A winter coat cost $2 instead of $20. What they outgrew, they donated back, so every purchase did double work. Deseret Industries opened in 1938, born from the same welfare plan as the storehouse. It has run ever since. The coat was used. The dignity was not second-hand. Number 19, the hand-me-down stream. The hand-me-down stream. The clothes that dressed a decade of children. In a family of 8, nothing was bought twice. A $10 coat became the next boy's, then a cousin's, then a neighbor's. $10 that dressed 4 children across 12 years. The mother kept boxes in the attic labeled by size, a wardrobe waiting for whoever grew into it next. New clothes were for the child with no older sibling, and there were few of those. Large families were the norm, and the hand-me-down was their economy. Every ward had the same boxes in the same attics. Nothing was outgrown. It was only passed down the line. Number 18, the move. The day the whole ward showed up with trucks. When a family moved, they did not call a moving company. They called the elders quorum. 10 men arrived Saturday morning and had the house loaded and unloaded by noon. The only cost was pizza and gratitude. A professional move ran hundreds of dollars. For them, it ran nothing. The volunteer move is a fixture of ward life to this day. It runs on a simple ledger. You help, and you are helped. No invoice, just a debt of the kind you are glad to owe. Number 17, fast offerings. The grocery money that became a safety net. One Sunday a month, the family skipped 2 meals and donated the $1 or $2 those meals would have cost, often more, as a fast offering. That fund fed anyone in the ward who fell on hard times. It built a habit of going without, and a fund that spared every member a payday loan. Fast offerings have funded the welfare program since 1936. The money goes first to the needy in your own ward. They gave up 2 meals. They built a net that caught their neighbors, and when the year turned bad, themselves. Here is the part most people never learn. In the depths of the Depression, with banks failed and millions out of work, this community built something else. In 1936, With more than 80,000 of their own members already on relief, their leaders launched a welfare program around one stubborn idea: independence over the dole. Help people help themselves. Storehouses instead of handouts. Work instead of a dole. Families grew gardens, stored food, got out of debt, and carried one another. Almost a century later, those habits are still wired into the grandchildren, kept alive by people who refused to let the lesson die. They turned a catastrophe into a curriculum, and they have been teaching it ever since. Compassionate service. Number 16. Compassionate service. The casseroles that replaced 100 bills. When a baby was born or someone landed in the hospital, the meals appeared. For 2 weeks, dinner arrived at the door, cooked, warm, free. When money was tight, a bag of groceries showed up with no questions. For a family buried under a medical bill, 2 weeks of dinners was $30 or $40 they did not have to find at the worst possible moment. This mutual aid runs through every ward, organized by the Relief Society since 1842, not charity. Insurance paid in casseroles and collected when the worst came. Family. Home evening, number 15. Family home evening. The Monday night that doubled as a budget meeting. Every Monday, the family gathered, with no television and no outside plans, often a lesson and a treat. Often, as the children grew, money. How a budget worked. Why you paid tithing first. What a dollar saved at 15 became at 60. The children learned to plan and save at the kitchen table years before any employer taught them. The church encouraged family home evening from 1915 onward, setting the night aside on purpose. The lesson was never just arithmetic, it was a whole way of seeing a dollar. Number 14. Home production. Home production. The store run that never happened because she made it instead. Bread was baked, not bought, a few cents of flour compared to a quarter for a store loaf. Clothes were sewn and mended, hair was cut at the kitchen sink. If a thing could be made at home, it was. A loaf a day saved real money across a year and tasted better besides. Make it, fix it, use it up, or do without was the rule, straight from the Provident Living Council of the welfare program. The cheapest store was the one with her own hands in it. Number 13, the case lot. The case lot was the afternoon a family bought groceries by the truckload. Twice a year, the local stores ran case lot sales. Staples were sold by the full case at the lowest price of the year. Families showed up with lists and station wagons and bought a year of food in an afternoon. Buying by the case, cut the per, can cost by a third or more. Case lot season is a genuine institution across the Mountain West, timed to the harvest. She did not buy a can, she bought the year. Number 12, the working child. The working child. The allowance that was earned, not given. There was no money for nothing. Children mowed lawns, delivered papers, babysat, hauled hay, and kept part of what they earned in an account in their own name. Work was not punishment. It was how you became a person who could be trusted with $1. A 12-year-old with a paper route in 1970 banked a few dollars a week and grew into an adult who never feared an empty wallet. Self-reliance was taught as doctrine, and work was its first lesson. They did not hand the child money. They handed the child a habit. Number 11, the modest house. The modest house. The mortgage was smaller than the bank approved. When they bought a home, they did not buy the most the bank would lend. They bought less, a smaller house, an older street, a payment they could carry on one income. The bank approved them for $30,000. They borrowed $20,000. That $10,000 they never owed was the margin that held when the plant cut hours. Live within your means was repeated from the pulpit for generations by leaders who had watched debt ruin good families. The house was smaller, the life inside it was not. Number 10. Cash on the barrelhead. Cash on the barrelhead. The wallet that owed nothing. If they could not pay cash, they did not buy it, whether appliances, furniture, or a car when possible. The credit card, when it finally arrived, was paid in full every month, or not used at all. A $400 refrigerator that was financed cost $600 by the end. They paid the $400 in cash. A family that paid cash owed no one's tab and owned what was in the house, free and clear. Get out of debt and stay out of debt was the steady drumbeat of church financial counsel for decades. They did not finance the life. They bought it outright. Number 9, one for the money. The financial handbook the whole church was handed. In 1975, an apostle named Marvin J. Ashton stood at a church-wide conference and gave 12 plain rules for family finance: pay tithing first, avoid debt, keep a budget, live on less than you earn. It was printed as a small booklet and pressed into millions of hands. Families lived by it for 50 years. The booklet sold for about a quarter and outperformed most of what passes for financial advice today. Spencer W. Kimball, then the prophet, endorsed it on the spot. Not advice billed by the hour. A quarter booklet and a generation stayed solvent. Now set that against today. The average American household carries thousands in credit card debt and a car payment that never ends. We measure wealth by what we can buy, which is to say, by what we can borrow. The old discipline did not fail. It vanished, and we never noticed it was lost. These families measured it by what they owed, which was nothing, and by how long they could survive with no income, which was a year. The church still teaches it in living room classes where neighbors hold one another to a budget. No app, no advisor, no subscription, just a workbook, a circle of chairs, and the same idea from 1936. A family that can take care of itself is free. The tools never got more complicated. We just stopped picking them up. Number 8, the self-reliance group. The classroom that met in a living room. The church organized small groups that worked through a personal finance workbook together, budgeting, attacking debt, and building savings week by week. You reported your progress. They expected you back. That accountability did what willpower alone could not. A family that walked in owing $8,000 came out months later with a plan to clear it, taught for free by people who had walked the same road. The program runs worldwide today in dozens of languages. It was not a lecture. It was a circle of people refusing to let you quit. Number 7, the reserve. The reserve. The cash that sat beside the food. Alongside the year of wheat sat a financial reserve. Cash the family could reach in an emergency without touching a credit card. It started small, a few dollars a paycheck into an envelope, then an account, then a sum that could cover months of bills. When the transmission died, there was no scramble and no loan. There was an envelope. Church leaders paired food storage with a financial reserve in the same breath, for the same reason. The food was for the body. The reserve was for everything else. Number 6, education, the expense they treated as an investment. Schooling was never cut. When money was tight, other things went first, the vacation, the new car. But the children were pushed toward college or a trade to raise what they could earn for life. Education was the one debt, if any, considered worth it. A few $100s of tuition turned a low-wage child into an adult who earned double for the next 40 years. The church even built a perpetual education fund in 2001, lending the poor in distant countries the cost of schooling, repaid so the next student could borrow. They did not spend on education. They planted it. Number 5, the ledger, the notebook that knew the truth. Every dollar in and every dollar out went into a notebook. Rent, tithing, groceries, the reserve, down to the dime. Many kept it in the same drawer as the family journal, because to them a budget was a kind of record of a life. When a hard choice came, they opened the book and knew what the family could bear. Record-keeping was taught as both a practical and a spiritual habit, journals and ledgers side by side. The checkbook told the bank's story. The ledger told the family's. Number 4, the quiet gap. Spending less than came in every single month. There was no trick to it, which is why it was the hardest. Whatever the paycheck was, the family spent less. Less on a good month, carefully less on a bad one. The difference was never spent. It was the gap that became, over decades, a paid-off house and a calm retirement. $10 a week held back is $500 a year, and $500 a year for 40 years becomes a fortune to an ordinary family. The council said it flatly, "Financial peace depends not on how much you make, but on how much you spend. Not what they earned, what they kept." Number 3, out of debt. Out of debt. The freedom they chased harder than wealth. Debt was not merely unwise to these families, it was close to a moral failing, a chain that handed your future to a lender. So they attacked it. They paid the smallest balance first, then the next, throwing every spare dollar at it until the balances hit zero and stayed there. A family with no payments needs far less to survive, so a layoff was a setback, not a catastrophe. Get out of debt and stay out of debt had been preached from the pulpit since before the Depression. Freedom was not the big paycheck. It was the empty mailbox where the bills used to come. Number 2, prepare every needful thing. Prepare every needful thing. The mindset underneath all the rest. Behind every habit on this list sat one instruction from their scripture. Prepare every needful thing. Food before the famine, cash before the crisis, skills before the breakdown, a 50-cent washer on the shelf instead of a $40 repair call. The whole philosophy was to be ready before, not scrambling after. A prepared family does not fear bad news. It has already answered the question the news is asking. The phrase comes from a revelation recorded in 1832 and became the quiet motto of provident living. They did not react to the storm. They had stocked the cellar in the sun. Number 1, pay tithing first. Pay tithing first. The simplest rule on the list, and the one they guarded above all. The very first check written after every paycheck was 10% off the top to the church, before the mortgage, before the groceries, before a single other dollar was claimed. Not what was left at the end. There was rarely anything left. It came first, or the discipline behind it never formed at all. The amount mattered less than the order. A family that can give away the first 10% has already proven it can live on the rest, and a family that lives on the rest never goes broke. Their own financial handbook said it plainly. Successful money management in the home begins with an honest tithe paid first. Not what you earn, what you set aside before the world can reach the rest. None of these tricks required a high income, an advisor, or a dollar these families did not already hold. They required attention and the patience to be ready before the hard day came. The world remembers this community for many things. It rarely remembers them for this. But an ordinary teacher on an ordinary salary raised a large family, owned his home, stored a year of food, and owed no one. And on his street, he was not the exception. He was the rule. We were taught that comfort is security, and that the ability to buy anything is freedom. These families knew better. They knew what you keep matters more than what you earn, that a full cellar beats a high salary, that a family who can carry itself and its neighbor is the only kind ever truly free. They did not get rich. They got free. And they have been teaching their children how for almost 100 years, while the rest of us forgot we ever knew.